This is the Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. Episode 69, recorded August 11th, 2016. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. I am your host and editor-in-chief of TV Enthusiast, Tyson Gifford, and joining me today, as always, is our keeper of comics here at TV Enthusiast, Will Warwick.
Hello.
Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about BrainDead and a little bit about Peaky Blinders. We're not going to be talking about Mr. Robot today, which is killing Will. He's desperate to talk about it. I wasn't able to see it in time for the podcast, so blame goes on me. We'll talk about it next week. But we do have something else to talk about besides our two shows for the feature topic. So first off, I wanted to give a little bit of a scheduling. We've been doing this kind of Peaky Blinders Show Club. We're almost done. We got 4 episodes left, but I just wanted to announce that on August 25th, we're going to be recording. So that's going to be August 26th that it's up, I guess. We're going to be doing the fall TV preview podcast. So we're not going to be doing Peaky Blinders that week, but we'll resume it again the week after that. And once we get through Peaky Blinders, I believe we finish Peaky Blinders on episode 74, and on September 22nd, we're going to do another Advocates of Great Television. That'll be out on September 23rd. We're going to try to get a special guest on board for that. But if you've liked those in the past, that's when we're going to be doing that. We're going to cap off our 3rd season. I cap off each season at 25 episodes. So we're going to finish off our 3rd season of our show. Can you believe that we're almost at 75 episodes, Will?
Wow, that's amazing, actually. I know how the time does fly.
So we're almost there. But one other thing I want to bring up before we get started on the main show discussion is for Top 10 Tuesday this week, my top 10 list was Nickelodeon shows. And the reason why I did a top 10 list about Nickelodeon shows is because today, as we're recording this on August 11th, this is the 25th anniversary of Rugrats, Doug, and the Ren and Stimpy Show.
Oh, man. I remember all those shows. Well, Ren and Stimpy was clearly the best show out of all of them. But...
Oh, yeah. That, on my top 10 list, that made the #1 show on Nickelodeon, period.
Yeah, pretty much. That was like...
And then I think number 2 was You Can't Do That on Television, just because of how much that defined the network.
Yep.
And then I think maybe I had Ventures of Pete and Pete after there. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about kind of just Nickelodeon and how much it was part of our childhoods growing up. So I mean, right off the bat, Rugrats, Doug, and Ren and Stimpy. Ren and Stimpy and Doug both made my top 10 list. Rugrats didn't, but it was very close. I just decided I needed a little bit more diversity on the list, so I said, I'll just cut off this cartoon and put something else on here. But Doug and Ren and Stimpy definitely made my list. Ren and Stimpy in particular, like I said, made #1 on my list. Happy, joy.
Yeah, Ren and Stimpy. I mean, that was like the wildest, craziest thing Nickelodeon ever put on the air. Like this, it's like they were like actively like trying to see every week what they can get away with, what they can get past the censors at Nickelodeon. And they got away with some stuff.
There's so much iconic about that show, from like the kind of like 50s aesthetic that it had with the, like the little infomercial or the commercials.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff, I mean, Powdered Toast Man and Log and all that, but the jingles and the kind of like the way the announcers would talk in those moments and the horse with the no sir, I don't like it. And the nipples, the rubber nipples on the knees, and just all these kind of like weird things that just kind of matched with this like weird kind of 50s aesthetic. It's similar like gaming wise if you've played like any of the games by like 2D Boy, Tomorrow Corporation, like World of Goo, and what's that called? Little Inferno. or any of the games like that, they also kind of have that like 50s aesthetic. I think that like Ren and Stimpy really kind of set like that parody of that 50s aesthetic that like everybody else has copied.
Yeah.
But I loved that. And then another thing that I was thinking about when I was, writing up about Ren and Stimpy for this article are like when they'd have those moments of like hyper realism, like they'd have those like frames and you'd see like all the just dirty griminess of what was ever, like the gingivitis on the teeth and the, you know what I mean? They'd cut in and you'd see every little wart and hair. It was like gross and disgusting, but it was like this weird hyper realistic thing that they did on that show in like certain key moments that was like really kind of, I don't know, really kind of took me by surprise when I watched it as a kid. It was like, whoa, what the hell is this?
Yeah, when you watch that show as a kid, that was like crazy. You never saw a cartoon do the things Ren and Stimpy did. Ever.
Really kind of embrace the ugliness,
Yeah, it really did. Like, yeah, they do like these super detailed, ugly close-ups of the characters. Like, yeah, it really like embraced that. Oh, I can't get enough of it.
Such a crazy show. Did you watch when they actually brought the show back on, I think it was on like Spike TV or something? Yeah.
I watched an episode. I thought, God, this is stupid. And I just couldn't, like, yeah, no.
They like brought it back like for adults because, people loved the show so much. And it was like this insane children's show, but they brought it back for adults, like making it even kind of like more extreme, more homoerotic, more.
Yeah, more extreme, but in doing so, they really like, it just became like an awful parody of itself.
They lost the kind of magic balance, between like, getting as close to the line as they could, they lost that balance.
Right.
And it just became like you're watching another like Spike and Mike's cartoon festival or whatever, where they have those like really vulgar cartoons,
Yeah,
it just kind of like felt like one of those.
It felt like one of those, felt like really run of the mill, and it's just, it lost the charm it had.
So what were some other of your favorite Nickelodeon shows?
Well, geez. Since Nickelodeon was literally the only television I watched from the time like I was like 3 to the time I was 12. Like literally the only television that's a huge list. It would be like, you can't do that on television. Yeah. Salute Your Shorts.
Oh yeah, that made my list as well, both of those.
Yep. Double Dare, of course.
Oh, they brought Double Dare back for Comic-Con this year.
Oh, really?
At Comic-Con, they had Mark Summers came out of retirement, was hosting Double Dare.
That is awesome, actually.
Yeah.
That is super awesome. Adventures of Pete and Pete.
I loved Adventures of Pete and Pete.
Loved Adventures of Pete and Pete. Like,
I've actually been thinking about going back and rewatching that if I can find it. Just because like looking up and writing about it, I was like, holy shit, like looking at some of the guest stars that were on that show and stuff. I'm like, Michael Stipe was in it. I'm like, that was so crazy.
That's insane. Like that show was another show on Nickelodeon. It was just legit great. It wasn't like, well, this is good for a kid's show on Nickelodeon. This was like that. It was like out there. It was Nickelodeon, especially today, never had a program like that before or since.
Yeah.
Never will. It was that unique.
I mean, the main characters were two ginger brothers with the same first name. One of them who had 2 tattoos.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah, dancing woman named for 2. And then there was like Artie, the strongest man in the world.
Yeah,
it was like just this
lanky, weird-looking guy.
Weird-looking guy who was like clinically insane, but
was like legitimately like super strong.
Yeah.
Such a weird show. So great. Yeah. I was looking up some of the other ones that came up on there. Even some ones, like, I put it, I think the number 10 spot at list, just because I wanted the diversity of it, is I put, Clarissa Explains It All.
Clarissa, yeah.
It's not necessarily in line with what our normal taste would be, but like, it kind of, for better or worse, it kind of set the entire paradigm for like, every show that's marketed towards young girls now is basically like a ripoff of Clarissa Explains It All.
I pretty much watched every episode of that that show.
Yeah.
And
her annoying brother Ferguson and
not because I had a crush on Melissa Joan Hart at any point in my life, but because like I legit enjoyed that show for whatever reason.
It was a really interesting show, and like I said, everybody's ripped off that show. And like every time they make a show marketed at like young girls, it's like they rip off elements of that show. None of them do it well, but they all do it.
They all do it, yeah. That was another one that was like special. And then there was I did watch Are You Afraid of the Dark? I loved Are You Afraid of the Dark? I don't think I liked it that much. Like I always like thought like this is like I was spoiled. I was a spoiled child when it came to horror. So like at the time Are You Afraid of the Dark was on, it was watching
PG-13 horror. It was
I was watching Tales from the Crypt on HBO. So I was like a bit spoiled. So I'm just like, this is way too kiddie.
For me, Are You Afraid of the Dark? What was cool about it was they just kind of had like interesting kind of ideas in the stories. And, it was something I watched with my family, like my mom and my sister, who neither of them could stomach horror at all.
Oh, really?
But they could watch Are You Afraid of the Dark?
The one episode, there is one episode of that show though that did leave an impression on me. Like none of the episodes like really left an impression because like it's all like really tame horror stuff. But one episode actually did leave an impression on me and made me think. It made me like kind of terrified. And that was the episode with like these like, God, how do I say these people like who exist in like another dimension. And I think this kid gets glasses or something where he could see them and they're invading our dimension and they're completely invisible except for the fact that you can see them like with these glasses or whatever the hell this kid had. And I just thought that was like a legit terrifying concept.
Yeah.
Like they were like these.
They were great concepts, even if they weren't that scary. There were a lot of really good concepts in that show.
Yeah, I thought that just left that impression on me because I was like, what if there are these creatures like all around us we can't see invading our reality?
So the guy that created that show is named DJ Mikhail. He ended up becoming a YA author. So he wrote some YA books, including a series called Pendragon, and he did one about like kind of like life and death and stuff, but they're just very like YA type books or something. But it's just kind of interesting that I remember seeing those books and hearing about, and then I learned that it was the guy that created Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I was nice. Oh, that's crazy.
That's crazy. That's cool. I think that's about.
You mentioned Salute Your Shorts earlier. I loved that show.
I love that show. Yeah.
The Counselor Ugg
the Counselor Ugg, the theme song.
Yeah, you had the camp director that like you never saw.
Yeah, the camp director.
Voice announcing at the beginning.
Yeah, the camp director that you never saw. One show I really didn't care about was Hey Dude. I really did not. That was
in contention on my list, but I was like, it's Hey Dude's fairly close to like Salute Your Shorts, and Salute Your Shorts is way better.
Yeah,
so I left Hey Dude off my list.
And Hey Dude was like Snoozeville. Like every time I watched that, I was like, this is boring.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't up to par with the other ones.
Yeah, I always like sighed when that came on because like it's Nickelodeon, so I wasn't gonna change the channel. But I was like.
Such a different time in TV. The idea that you just kind of left the channel on.
Yeah, you left the
versus
channel.
Like now it's like you'd look for a specific program and you're like, well, what app is this on? Or, just a very different way of watching TV back then. You just tuned in and just let it play. And everything was structured to kind of keep you watching. So they would they'd have like weird ways of like cutting from one show to another so that it kind of went like fluidly so that you wouldn't be tempted to change the channel. So it's like that. It was just very weird the way TV was back then. It's weird to think about it now. Like I didn't think of it as weird then, but now like looking back, it's like, yeah, TV was structured kind of strange back then. Because everything was based on trying to keep you engaged on a single channel.
Yeah, exactly. That is interesting. And with me being a kid, that totally worked on me because like I said, I rarely watched anything outside of Nickelodeon growing up. If I'm watching TV, like 90% 90% of it was on Nickelodeon. 10%, the other 10% was like Saturday morning cartoons, like on other channels.
Yeah.
That was
a lot for me as well. Nickelodeon was a lot of my TV. But then there was also for me, I remember, was it Disney Adventures? Like I'd get back from school and Disney Adventures was on.
Oh yeah, the Disney afternoon.
Yeah.
I used to watch that all the time too. Like all those all those afternoon shows.
Yeah, they were like Saturday morning cartoons, but on in the afternoon after school.
Yeah, they're on the afternoon. I watched those too.
So I'd be like, I gotta get off the bus and get home so I can tune into Disney Adventures.
Disney afternoon. I definitely watched that religiously. I was like a huge DuckTales fan.
Oh, definitely. DuckTales and Darkwing Duck, Chippendales Rescue Ranger.
It was
Tailspin.
Like DuckTales was like, I actually like drew like my own DuckTales comic. When I was a kid, like I had to have been 6 or something.
That was such a good show. That's coming back. Did you know that? They're rebooting.
Oh
DuckTales.
yeah, I saw that. It looks really good. The art style is like really nice. It's it harkens to Carl Barks comics.
Yeah.
Which is like a really good style for that.
Well, I gotta get off this topic because this is a Nickelodeon, which we were talking about. But this makes me think we really should do like a nostalgia podcast at some point.
We should.
Maybe this will be the topic for our advocates of great television when we do it again.
Oh yeah, your favorite
back to like
childhood show. There we go. We got our topic. Boom.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. We just got to make sure we can find it all.
Yeah, I know. Oh yeah, that's true. I know you can buy DuckTales on iTunes now.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. But yeah, let's move on from Nickelodeon. As you could tell, we were both Nickelodeon kids and grew up in that era and the golden age of Nickelodeon. If you want to check out my article, it's on TVEnthusiast.com. It's top 10 Nickelodeon classics. So you can check that out. Now let's move on to BrainDead. So BrainDead, you caught up. You were, I think, 2 episodes behind, so you're all up to date now.
I'm all up to date now. Yeah, I watched the 2 episodes to get caught up, and now I'm caught up.
Things are getting crazy.
Laurel got bugs in her ears, but she managed to defeat them.
She fucked them out.
Yeah, I know. In like one of the most insane like sequences. She's like eating chocolate and shit while she's doing it.
And dancing and listening to music, and her friends are there like pushing the guy into the room.
Yeah.
It was awkward.
Like awkward to the max. Holy cow.
Yeah, so, the main thing that I really liked in these last 2 recent episodes is they finally found a way to use that frequency that they'd been picking up from the bugs.
Oh yeah, they finally, yeah.
Which was just great. They found one frequency that basically made them get up and walk into a wall, and another one that made them raise both their hands. Which, of course, in a show about congressional hearings and stuff, course ended up working.
Wait, that wasn't the latest episode I watched.
Oh, wait. So you're not up to date then?
I'm up to date with what was on Amazon Prime streaming.
Oh, I'm sorry. So that was, you haven't seen. Okay, you're not up to date. Oops.
I think the last scene of the last episode was that one chick, like, figuring out that the frequency sounds like the song You Might Be.
Oh yeah, you
might think I'm crazy.
Yeah, sorry for the spoiler then. I guess Amazon doesn't have Sunday's episode up yet.
No, does it come on Sundays? Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, it was moved. It used to be on Mondays, and I think they moved to Sundays. Probably wasn't getting good ratings, so they just moved it to Sundays to play out the rest of them.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But let's talk about what was in the episode that you watched. So we had her, she got the bugs out of her brain. which got in there in the first place because of the one cop boyfriend who that she was dating, and she noticed the episode before that she had noticed that he couldn't hear out of one of his ears.
Yeah.
And started growing suspicious of him. And they really kind of set it up like a red herring. So you're thinking like, okay, this guy, he's not really like, one of these, they're setting up cues to make you think he's going to be one of these bug people.
Yeah, but he's not.
But then he like grabs her and is like holding her so the bugs can get into her head. And
yeah, but
which
then
isn't how they get in. But she just wails on him with brass knuckles.
No, they get in because she decides to be careless afterwards.
Yeah, she decides like, oh, I don't need to use the earphones. I got the thing, and doesn't realize that the bugs are traveling on the cherry blossom.
Right.
Which that her friend figures out, basically like in a panic, calling her back and running to her place to try to get to her. Too late, they're already in her head, and she's trying to get them out, and she's trying to think about like calculations in order to get them out, because they think like right brain function is going to get them out. And then they figure out that that's actually what makes people's heads explode. It isn't actually the like bugs farting. It's like when you're using your right brain, like, and you overcalculate, that's when your brain explodes.
Yeah, that's when your brain explodes, yeah.
And it's the left hemisphere, the left side of the brain, when you're thinking creatively. So that's why like sex, music, dance, chocolate, things like that, that's what gets them to get out of your head. That's what repels them.
It repels them. That's why the infected people don't drink. That's why like the concept of sex disgusts them.
Yeah.
As we saw. So that explains that actually.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for BrainDead. So we got a little bit into stuff that Will hasn't watched yet there, unfortunately, because Amazon made him think he was up to date, but still is holding back an episode from him, unfortunately. So we might be talking about that next week. Let's move on and talk about our show club discussion of Peaky Blinders. So this is season 3, episode 2 of Peaky Blinders, or episode 14 of the entire series as a whole so far. So 14 out of 18 episodes. So we only have 4 left after this. So this was a pretty eventful episode. We got to meet some members of the Russian royal family that had left during the I think it's the Bolsheviks rebellion in Russia.
Yep, the Bolshevik rebellion in Russia, yeah.
And we got to see kind of a moment with him with like people just canceling on him and him being all offended.
Yeah.
And he had a meeting with Tommy Shelby. That was interesting, the way they set that up, that he was going to have this meeting with him, because Tommy had visited his sister, and this priest that's kind of acting as Tommy's handler right now was not happy about that because she has ties to the Bolshevik.
Yeah, exactly.
And so he basically gets him sent to prison, gets Tommy sent to prison by Scotland Yard, or to jail, I guess, so that they can basically impart that they can get to him anywhere. And in that message, it's a great scene because the guy shows up with this dog, very threatening, and Tommy's like showing how the dog is like, would do nothing to him, that either he'll charm the dog or he'll kill it.
He says he'll charm the dog with his gypsy magic, or he'll kill it with his bare hands. Like, just kind of showing like a brave face, showing he's not afraid, no matter how much like that priest is trying to intimidate him. Tommy
pulls out a card that he wasn't expecting.
Yeah, then he pulls out a card that he wasn't expecting, yeah. Tommy did a good job of not being intimidated until that last part.
In which he says, you might want to check under your son's pillow. Tommy rushes home, and it's really creepy. There's a card for a crematorium.
Yeah.
With his son's name on the back.
Jesus.
Which is just like, we'll murder your son, your baby son.
Yeah, we'll murder.
It's like Gus Fring in Breaking Bad.
Yeah, we'll murder babies. It does not fucking matter to us.
Yeah. So it's a really messed up scene. I think what's interesting here is that this seems to be kind of the pattern in Peaky Blinders, in which the antagonist of the show really want to put Tommy under their thumb, like very desperately badly want to control him through fear.
Yeah.
More than anything else, and it always backfires horribly on them.
Yeah, it always backfires horribly because Tommy comes up with some clever plan and gets one over on them massively.
So we're setting up, like, more than any time before, Tommy has real reason to be angry. More than he has ever before with any of the shit they've pulled.
Yep. Oh yeah, definitely.
So he's furious. He's like, the second he gets an opportunity, he's going to wipe these people off the face of the earth. So it's interesting seeing him with that anger.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's definitely interesting. And then when you get to like the actual party, he's there. He goes to this party to meet with the Bolsheviks.
No, they just ended up showing up. But it was or not the Bolsheviks, the priest guys ended up showing up at the party. But in setup before the party, he had given a sapphire that the Russian guy had given to him.
Yeah,
and he gave it to Grace. This giant sapphire around her neck.
Yeah, and then he meets the Russian princess.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and she says to him, like, she would never be caught wearing that sapphire because it's cursed.
Yeah, she says it's got a gypsy curse on it.
Yeah, it's got a gypsy curse on it, like really, really mocking him, for being a gypsy.
Yeah, and then he rushes over to Grace, he's trying to convince her that he can take this necklace off her. She's a little resentful because of him talking to that, Russian princess or whatever.
Oh yeah.
She's like, what, you want to give it to her or something? And he's like, no, I just need you. I don't care about anybody else. I just need you to be safe. And he's trying to take this off her. And at that moment, a man comes up with a gun and shoots at him, and Grace is in the line of fire.
Oh my god. Yeah, Arthur tries to push him out of the way, but the bullet ends up striking Grace. The episode ends with Tommy holding Grace, her fate uncertain.
Yeah. Doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't look good. I was like,
and
cow,
Tommy's brothers basically curb stomping the shit out of.
Oh my god. Attacker, yeah, they're like going to town on that guy. Holy cow.
Just kicking his head in, and you see Arthur grabbing like a crystal plate, and it's about to crack it over his head when it cuts to black.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
They're angry. So we should go into the possible reasons for that. I don't know if maybe I read into it wrong, but I think that assassin was from the Italian. Is that what you read as well?
I think you're right because Tommy really screwed him over. Tommy and the Peaky Blinders.
Well, it was mostly Tommy's brother, but Tommy approved it, which is
approved it.
He got a character a little bit, but
Tommy approved it. He said, we can't release the pressure on them.
Yeah. Basically, one of the Italians, which goes way back to the first season, there was that moment where they pretended to kill Danny Whizbang and you saw the two Italians across the way, like, nod their approval.
Yeah.
That was, like, one of those guys basically saying that, he was angry at the Peaky Blinders because, like, his son's, what was it, a club or a coffee house or restaurant or something, his place of business burned down.
Yeah.
And we heard about that before in passing because it was, John Shelby's, former whore that was, now working as Tommy's secretary.
Yeah.
She apparently was dating this guy, and they didn't want her involved with him. They didn't want him coming to the wedding, so they did that to, like, stop him from going to the wedding. So there's this kind of animosity there. And John is, like, I guess not happy that, somebody's getting his sloppy seconds.
Yeah.
So he has this kind of resentment towards this guy for some reason. And, he basically, when they're meeting with the Italians, threatens to put 2 bullets in the guy's knees.
Yep.
And the Italian's like, that's too far. And he spits and he says, that's it, And then, they're basically like, Polly and Arthur are trying to, like, Arthur of all people, trying to talk sense into John and get him to, like, apologize in a way that, like, saves face by having somebody else apologize on his behalf. And he's like, no, fuck that. And he rushes off, like, way off the handle, like Arthur season 2 off the handle, and, goes and just destroys this Italian. Just like, you know, it's like he cut out his eye or something.
Oh,
just
yeah,
carved up his face and messed up, killed some other ones of them, you know, it was like some of his people, and just went way over the line. And then it's like, okay, Tommy gets called in, they're gonna have a meeting about this, and you're like, okay, how is Tommy gonna deal with his loose cannon of a brother John here? And it's like, no, Tommy's all in support of it.
Yeah, Tommy's like, cool, good. And, so it's interesting because earlier in the episode, you know, following all that stuff, you saw right before the ending, you saw the Italian talking to one of his lieutenants, you know.
About somebody coming in.
And so you knew, like, wheels were turning. And so I think this is definitely a retaliation by the Italians.
Yeah.
And I think if Grace dies over this, Tommy's gonna really regret being so agreeing about, John attacking the Italians like that.
I don't know how much he'll be regretful or how much he'll just be like out
He'll
and
probably
out
just be
vengeful.
out and out vengeful, actually, yeah.
Yeah. He's gonna be angry. I don't know if he's gonna relate it to his own fault or to his own failings. He's gonna relate it to, like, these people took from me, and he's gonna be incredibly angry and go after them. That's what I imagine, at least.
Yeah, that's what I imagine too.
So yeah, that's Peaky Blinders. So, if you want to watch along with us, you can catch up on the last 14 episodes, then get ready for episode 15 and watch that along with us. We'll be talking about that next week. It'll be episode 15, which is season 3, episode 3. And that'll be our discussion next week on the podcast, as well as whatever else we happen to watch. So thank you everybody for listening. Reach us on contact@TVEnthusiast.com or the weekly set at TVEnthusiast.com. Leave a comment in any of our articles, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. Will is at Voxel Hero, right?
Yep.
And, so reach us anyway, and we will, mention you on the podcast and mention your comments. So, thank you everybody for listening. Bye.
Bye.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@TVEnthusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast for more coverage